session in AWS. So in today's session, we are going to be discussing about an important topic as far as your AWS is concerned. So the topic that we're going to be discussing in your AWS, it comes under your EBS, which is the Elastic Block Store. So we already know, so this is either your HDD or SSD, or if you're working on IO intensive job or workloads, it's going to be IO1 or IO2. This is further classified into GP2 and GP3. So we are going ahead with storing our data here, which means every time there is an EC2 instance that is launched, so there's going to be a volume created for the EC2 instance. And your Elastic Block Store service is going to enable that for you. Now, we already know this volume is going to be having all the data. In case if we are deploying an application, say application 1. So this EC2 instance is going to be having all the application and the data related to the application. Data plus logs and etc. Say this particular application is going off. How would we retrieve the application? So we have something called backup. So we know that as users of the internet, so we might be using Gmail, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Google Drive. So all these applications which are provided as SaaS are going to be backing up our data on daily basis, or maybe on weekly basis, or even on monthly basis. It depends on the user's preference. So similarly, EC2 even provides the backup feature through something called Snapshot. So what do these snapshots do? How do we generate a snapshot? So first, as usual, we're gonna be performing launching an instance. So let's go ahead with launching an instance, EC2 instance. In availability zone, say 2A of Ohio. So the second step that we're going to be performing is launch another instance in availability zone 2B of the same region, Ohio. So the first instance that we're going to be launching, we're going to be making sure that the volume we're going to be launching ahead with, which is 30 GB by default given to us, upon which we're going to be adding 2 GB. And the second instance that we're going to be launching is just of 30 GB. Later on, as the third step, we're going to be creating the snapshot. So to create a snapshot, so we'll see that in the practical session right after the theory. So we have to go to snapshot, which is under your EBS volume. So we have under EBS volumes, snapshot. We're gonna go to this option. So once we go to the snapshot, we wouldn't be having anything there in the snapshot. So we are supposed to perform snapshot of your EC2 instance. So what we have to do is, first we have to go to the volume, and from your volume you're supposed to create a snapshot of the volume for which you want the backup for. So once we've launched the EC2 instance, so we have first instance which is of 30 GB volume. So we're going to be having a volume 1 of its own ID. Some random ID might be there. We're going to be having volume 2, one more volume of some random ID. We're going to be having one more volume. So there's going to be an ID given for it. So this first volume is for the 30 GB. The second volume is for the 2 GB that we added up, we scaled up. And the third volume is for the second instance that we launched in zone 2B, which is again 30 GB. Now to go create a snapshot, let's first understand that we are going to be creating, or we are going to be performing the snapshot of this particular volume. So let me just put it in red. So select this particular volume and create snapshot of this particular volume. Now if you go to snapshot, we would be able to find the snapshot created with some name that we have given. Say I'm naming it as snapshot 1. Now the snapshot is ready to be transferred from, or copied from, or backed up from your first instance volume to the second instance. But we don't have the volume here, right? Did we create a volume? No. So from the snapshot, we have to create the volume. Of what size? Obviously, the volume for which we're going to be performing the backup is going to be 2 GB, and hence we're going to be requiring the same amount of size. We can even go ahead with further more size, but let's go ahead with just 2 GB. So now the volume is created, the snapshot is created. We are supposed to attach it in the server's end. So how do we attach it? So we have to go all the way to the RDP. We have to initiate or connect the instance. So first connect your first instance in availability zone, say 2A. Connect the second instance from the availability zone 2B of same region, which is Ohio. Here in the first remote server, we are supposed to perform disk so we have to initialize the disk. We have to make it online. and we have to create a folder here, say test. And here again we have to perform the same disk management. So make the disk online, initialize the disk. Now if you refresh your page, you would be able to find the snapshot that's been created and attached to your disk, which is containing the volume of 2 GB, also the folder from your first instance is all backed up to your second instance. So that's how we're going to be performing snapshot. So once the snapshot is all done and once the laboratory is all completed, we're going to go ahead with first terminate the instances. Next, go to your EBS volume, under which go to your volumes, terminate the remaining volumes, because you would be having your root volume, non-root volumes. So we had in fact created the volumes to perform the snapshot. So we have to terminate all those. Then under your EBS, go to your snapshot. Further, terminate your snapshot. So with that, we are going to end today's session. So let's perform the laboratory quickly.